What? Hello. How's everyone? I think this stream will be one of the more popular ones. Hello. How's everyone? Okay, so you heard my voice duplicated there because, well, I I have an audio thing backup. It's like a streaming thing. Hello. Good night. Good night. So what I'll be doing today is showing you guys how I draw Polandball. Whenever I draw Polandball, it will be a sort of soft digital art class. I'll show you like a couple of basic tools that people need to keep in mind if they're trying to do this kind of thing. It'll be fun. It'll be cool. You guys will hopefully learn a lot from it, especially if at some point you'd be interested in having your own channels, for example, or would like just like an entry level thing into the kinds of videos that I do. Um, how do we take, for example, a kind of abstract topic, a piece of script, a piece of an essay, that and turn it into a video essay? That's what we will be doing for the most part. Uh, you don't need a specific drawing system or like software if you want to do this thing. You just need anyone, pretty much anyone, any old one works. Bob Ross 2.0, yeah. Anything you have works. All the things that I will be talking about are translatable across different systems, but I am using Krita. Krita is how do I describe it? It's basically a Photoshop substitute that's free. It's like an open source Photoshop. Quebec 3 art? It would be for Quebec 3. There will be a next week a members one for Quebec 3, but I will postpone that one because Quebec 3, that's something I'm being cryptic about. This is for another video, a different video, but still something that you will see relatively soon. Hello everyone. Yes. So okay. How do we begin? Let's see. So we're drawing something that has to do with um I'll put the text up here, maybe in like black. Uh-huh. 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 Okay. Being responsible. Mhm, 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 mhm. Do you guys hear like a scratch, by the way? I hear a bit of a scratch, but it's a scratch of I'm not sure if it's my microphone failing or if it's something else. But if it is, I should probably look into that later. So yeah, adds you to list of art project sources. That'd be very sweet. Thank you. Anyway, this thing that's here is the piece of writing that we will be turning into um yes, into a sequence. Typically, what I do is that I divide this in ideas. Mm, so before I even begin, I have to go through a process in which I well, I don't have to, but it's useful, right? I have to go through a thing where I mark things that might be good to represent as a single uh, string of ideas, maybe something I could use a meme for. So there is in reality no evidence whatsoever of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father. Okay, that's a single idea, like reasonably so. Done. And ton. Typically, I do this in a Word document, but here I'm also doing it in Krita, so you guys will see, like, how I work basically. Now, I am going over here, and here you have a previous slide from the same project that I've done. This looks a lot more finished. It looks a lot more like something that we would present. Um, and yeah, so how do we go from like zero to something like this? Let's start. So first of all, there is in reality no evidence whatsoever of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father. Conceptually, that's a single idea. Now let's see if the next one is different enough to warrant like another thing. Mm, okay, Alexander comes to Anatolia presenting himself as liberator of the Greeks under Achaemenid rule. Huh. Here he visits a pilgrimage that's not spelled the right way, but it doesn't matter. Site that is claimed to be the tomb of the mythical figure Achilles. Okay, so I think there are like two things here that we could represent as sequences. So, the first one uh, could be one meme or one joke or one concept, and the second one could be a second one. We could define like a different continuity, like you guys may visualize something different than I would, but for the purposes of this of this stream, let's divide it in two, and after that's going to be our first point of reference. So we're turning this into uh, this transparent layer, just to keep in mind what we're doing. And let's see. There's something else I want to show you, but you know what? I probably don't need to. Okay, give me a second. I probably don't need to do this with like a file generation. I am going to teach you guys something about cinema and cinema theory. So whenever you're drawing, I've created these lines. What this will do is that whenever I draw something here, like let's say a smile, it will mirror it here. And it also mirrors it down, and it mirrors it this way. Now, why am I doing this? It has a reason. The reason why is because one thing that we need to do whenever we are drawing things like these is create a frame of reference. These margins will essentially guide the focus of how we are constructing a scene. So what you will see, this actually needs to be a bit thinner, is that the top one is divided in thirds, more or less. And we also have like an outer margin of things where if you place an object up here, like let's say that we draw an apple up here, it's very unlikely that you will see that apple. If we have it in this space, if we have it in this space, or if we have it in this space, it's more likely that you will see it, but the main information has to be around this square. It's the largest one, and that's like something to keep in mind. So why are we doing this before we draw anything in particular? Because what we're drawing here for is not necessarily illustration. We're not doing drawings for a painting, as you would in a painting, where we could use a lot of different structures Like we could use the rule of thirds, which is doing the same thing but with thirds. This is specifically for cinema. Whenever you see a moving picture or an animation or something of that sort, all the information that you will be focusing on will mostly be here. These will be areas where your eyes will focus on transitions, and the things outside, the things in the blue, they don't really matter. Well, it's not that they don't really matter, but if you place important information in these like thin lines, it's very unlikely that people will notice them. So yeah, that's how we're starting. And this is like a cinematography tool. If you go to film school, I didn't go to film school, but I read this before I started making videos, and a lot of other things. So if you go and learn this, this is like a thing to keep in mind. Always when you're making videos, this is like some important stuff for visual information. Let me read the chat a second. Can you send the link of the site for you to download the program that you're using? Yes, I can. Let me do that real quick. Hi Rab. Hi Gascony. How are you doing? Gascony is one of the people who has yeah, he's drawn for my videos. He's probably one of the people who has grown the most as a digital artist out of all the people that I've known since I met him. So, yeah. He probably knows pretty much all the stuff that that I'm going to be presenting, but yeah. So here you go, krita.org. If you want to use the exact same software that I'm using, this one's free. The cool thing about it is that it's free, but there are alternatives. There are people who draw with other ones. They don't exactly like Krita because Krita is very uh, complicated. It can be if you're not into like too much computer stuff, but yeah. I mean, for me, it's fine. It's not that difficult. You can do it. Okay. So after all this theory, all this theory about how to divide the important parts of a screen, uh, let me show you something first. If we take this thing and we put it in front of this drawing, what you will see is that different parts of it are in the convection of meaning. So pretty much all of Greece can be found within these lines. Alexander's hair here is slightly over the blue part. I could correct that, but the main focus of the picture is this interaction. It's going to be an interaction or an animation that's going to happen in this square. If you have something in these intersections, they probably should be either very important information or you shouldn't have anything there at all. It's it's more useful that you have something like the Italian bay here, where it's completely within one scene. This Polandball perhaps should be moved to be more within this other scene. All of Greece is in this rectangle, that kind of thing. So now we're actually going to draw. Is it possible to get it on the Chromebook? I think so. I think that if you have any sort of Windows software, you can get it. Here's a suggestion. You don't have to listen to me with this one because it breaks what Polandball rules are kind of convened to be. But I will show you something just before we start drawing, which is I will draw a Polandball very quickly. The colors won't be right, but the point is that okay, I probably skipped over something very important here, but you'll see, you'll see. Okay, so here I drew something like a circle. Then I'm going to draw with a slightly thinner pen something like eyes. This is not yet like a very good one. So don't mind it too much. But uh, yeah, what I've done here is draw like the base structure of a Polandball, and let's make it Germany. What I'm going to be trying to show you is something very simple. Uh, it's something to keep in mind before you draw uh, country balls that might have certain types of colors. It's like a saturation idea. So here's Germany. Now, this is something that's very proper of my own art style. Are your pronouns they, them? I use any pronouns. You can call me they, them, or she, her, or he, him, whatever you're more comfortable with. I am non binary, I don't really mind that much. But thank you for asking. Uh, let's see. Here you go, Germany. That was like a quick pull and pull, but what do you notice when you see this thing? Is it. Let's see. Let me look at the chart, at the chat. What are you guys discussing? Krita, yes. So, Germany here has been drawn on a single layer, but I did something that you will notice if you look very close, which is that if you look at the edge, the circle, it's actually gray, right? It's like charcoal. It's not exactly the color of of like the blackest black you can have in a computer. These like hyper saturated black here. It's more like gray. It's even a bit greenish, right? So why do I use that? The reason why I use that is because whenever you're doing like the flags of certain countries, black is a feature, or black is a feature of the environment, and that can really mess up the saturation of whatever you're doing if when you're drawing Poland ball you follow the rules and you use black for pretty much all the outlines. Let me show you that if we did this as it was in the rules, you are not exactly able to tell where the circle ends and where the ball itself starts, right? It looks like it's wearing a sort of hat here. And if I was going to give it something like a top hat, for example, let me do this real quick. Something like this. Then. It's not exactly. We start to run into this problem, right? We start to run into this thing where uh, there's not enough of an ability on our side to tell apart what in the drawing is like part of what outline. So I do not recommend, whenever you're drawing digitally, um, to use black, like the black is black for your line art or for your outlines. If you're using it, it can look very strong. It can look like, even if we go very far apart, you can see what this is about. But if, for example, you have a slightly dark background, you suddenly can't see anything. There's like no clear outlines in that kind of thing. So, the darkest black you have, the very saturated colors you can use, are a resource that you better save for things that are very visually heavy. If you use this black for pretty much all the outlines that you want to use, you're pretty much. How would I describe this? You're using a very expensive plate to serve a very cheap food. You're unlikely to make the most out of your art. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's make this some Germany like small and put it over here just to keep in mind that it's a lesson. So here it is. Um, Now we're actually going on to the software. Let's see. Hello, Winking Germany. How are you? Oh no, it's capitalism. No, it's just the top hat. Never seen Germany with a top hat before. Yeah, I mean, you can. The moment you start doing these things I tell you about, you can give a lot of different clothes to like this kind of thing. Imagine the 1800s Afghan countryballs in space. It's just two eyes. Yeah, yeah. No, you better. Yeah, that's why I use this particular shade of gray. This is like my signature shade. If you look at most of my artwork, you will find that I use it. This is like the pencil I use to draw countryballs with. So yeah. Mm, okay, let's continue then. So there is in reality no evidence whatsoever of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father. Okay. So we're trying to represent this like very abstract idea, which is a historical event that happened a long time before, in a way that might be accessible to people who are perhaps not as informed of particular historical events as we are. Hello, bees. You caught my Polandball Art stream, so yeah, I'm explaining to people how I draw, how I go through scripts. In this particular case, we're concerned with taking this event, which is no evidence whatsoever of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father, in a way that someone who's not particularly into history could watch it as entertainment, or could maybe distill it in a way that's easier while making the concept a bit more approachable. So, uh, what do you think would be a good idea? This is just brainstorming, and in fact, it's the most difficult part of any drawing process, because uh, once you have like a bit of practice, making your ideas into something on the screen is actually quite a technical and just laborious process. But the hardest part of any artistic exercise is actually this one, the part where you're doing an exercise of visualization, trying to come up with how to represent something in a way that's approachable to people, that's iconic, but in the actual meaning of the word iconic, right? In the way that it's like uh, it carries meaning in a simple way. So there is no evidence of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father. What's something trendy that we can use? Mm, you guys think about this, right? I am thinking about this, in my own case. But think about how you would do it. I don't want you to tell me, because I am working right now. Yeah, like right now I'm essentially working, but but yeah, like think about it. Think, if you were in my position, what would you do? I have come up with a concept. What happens when you don't have evidence? Okay. Okay, this is what we're doing. See, this is funny, right? If we make like we need to make something similar to like the expulsion of a crewmate. Let's see. So I don't know. Like, if you were to see, mm, if you were to see this represented in maybe like a Polandball thing, it might be, uh, yeah, it might be easier for you to relate the information to it, right? Like, what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to draw an Achaemenid ball, which are these ones, getting expelled. I'm going to create the expulsion animation, and uh, the thing I'm doing is that it's basically going to be this character. That's what's going to be special about it. So yeah, does this really fit? You will see. You will see. You will see. Um, okay, so first off, what I'm trying to do here is going to be a bit complicated. So I am going to create a new slide which is twice as wide. And what's 2 times 1920? It's 3840. So now we have this very long one. Now we have this very long one, and I am going to be drawing space. So let's draw space first. This is going to be a relatively simple thing. This is a situation where, as we discussed, the back of our drawing is black. It's like a very solid shade of black. But because it's a very solid shade of black, it's going to help that our character will be not exactly black as its outline, because that way we can make it different from the environment. How do we draw space? Took you too long, math. Yeah, we're going bit by bit. So typically, when you have a drawing software, you will have multiple pens, right? Pens are tools which you can use to draw, and they come with a certain configuration, like this one. This one is a pen that is it's the simplest one, right? It takes your input as a circle, and then as long as you're pressing your input against your tablet or your mouse, it will create an image. Now there are other pens like this one, which is the same, but it's sensitive to pressure. So depending on how much pressure you are giving to your tablet, this one necessitates a tablet. But depending on like the pressure you're adding, it will create different degrees of thickness. Now there's also this one, which is aerosol. I I mean, I don't know how else I would call it. It's basically like if you were doing graffiti, right? It's a bit shady. It adds that kind of stuff. There are a lot of pens. I am just exploring like the basic ones, the ones that I use the most for drawing countryballs. There's this one which resembles the texture of a pencil, and you can use it for whenever you're trying to draw something granular, something like TV static. You can do this. It also, you can draw things on top of it, and it creates these interesting textures. Mhm. And so on and so forth. You also have this one, which is like the texture of stone. And if you were, for example, drawing stone, you might want to use something like this. And yeah, basically there are a lot of pens. And when do you use which pen is uh uh yeah, when do you use which pen is entirely up to you. It's like something you have to learn. There are situations where some pens might be more convenient than others. There are others when pens are counterintuitive. There are sometimes pens that are very oddly customizable, like this one. These are mountains. So if I wanted, I could create like mountains on the background, right? Like things like this, and I could make it bigger and add like a really big mountain here. So yeah, I mean, this is a very automated process. Um, but how do we draw? But what we're trying to do now is draw space. Imagine not knowing how to do this. Yeah, no, Bees is like a very advanced artist. Here we're going from like the very basics up. So how do we draw space? We could do a very simplistic thing here. Um, which is the what Among Us does, right? In Among Us, you're not seeing it right now, but I'm using a special pen that adds white dots, and I am creating space. hmm So this is how we're going to create an illusion of space. We're sprinkling basically white ink. Yeah. This would be like taking a brush and shaking it over a black background, and then slowly, from very far away, adding like little sprinkles. This is going to be our first layer of texturization of this thing, which is supposed to be space. Then maybe we have a couple other pens that may be interesting. I don't like that one. Let's see this one. Yeah, this one could be interesting, but it needs a bit of size conscience. Is it wrong to bully beginners? It is wrong to bully beginners. You were a beginner once as well. I wish I know how to draw. That's what this stream is for. I just had the best idea for a video, gathering sources now. Great. So what we did here first is that we created like a background of stars that are kind of far away. But when you look at space, this is like if you were looking at space from Earth, right? You're looking at space from Earth, and everything is like a more or less uniform distance. All the dots are pretty much the same size, they are just different degrees of brightness. This is how the sky would look if you were looking at the sky in like the middle of the night in a village, right? There's no electric light, there's no visual contamination. This is how the sky would look. But if you're in space, you're actually a lot closer to certain objects. So let's create those nearby objects, right? Maybe let's create some really big ones here. And then with different sizes, we're creating these occlusions here that add a little more diversity and texture to our definition of space. In a way, we're doing something more complex than the Among Us one, because the Among Us one is pretty much the white dots we had at the beginning. But we are going through, let's say, an additional layer of complexity to create these different notions of space. So these are very bright objects that are closer to where we are on our spaceship. So yeah, and now closer ones. I'm guessing. Yeah, we're doing ones some that are very big and some that are very small. This is giving like a sense of diversity and space to our night sky. Well, it's actually a space sky, but when you're in space, there's not really a sky. It's more like there's a lot of everything. Let's see. This can be like a void. It's fine if there are like places that are, let's say, dark, because in space you actually have naturally occurring bubbles. It helps to know a little physics. I'm a mathematician, so these things are, it might be. Yeah. I mean, uh, you start to see it's looking like something, right? Okay. Let's try to connect these. There are like certain bubbles where there aren't many stars, and there are some others where there are more stars. And yeah. So let's continue creating this background. It appears to be a semi-random spinning pen, kind of like the stony ones from earlier. Yeah, this is like a dot creation pen. It's like pretty much that sort of thing. How am I doing this? This is a custom pen that adds dots in like random proportions within a circle. So this actually looks like space now, right? It's starting to look like a sky. Mm, there's perhaps a little bit of darkness here, right? So there are bubbles. There are these like naturally occurring gaps of objects that happen in space. They do have objects within. They're just very small, and there's like these sequence of things that we could call maybe galaxies, maybe stars that are closer. And this would be good enough, but let's add a little more beautification to it. Let's make this like an 80%. Yeah, let's make it about 80% because when you have something that is 100%, it really jumps to your eyes, right? It really calls your attention. But what we want here is not for the night sky to be the main driver of attention. We want the country balls that are going to be on top of here to be the main driver of attention. So, all right. How do we draw? How do we do beautification now? Beautification is basically the process of adding details to a drawing. You don't need to do this. The drawing would be good enough with or without it, but it might be a worthwhile enterprise once we start. Okay, doing these things. So what am I doing next? What you saw is that I took essentially the graffiti tool and added like a purple mist. The purple mist, this is something that actually happens in space. It's it's a type of matter. Whenever you have like gas clouds of this sort, you're basically it could be nitrogen. There are a lot of minerals in space that uh, generate these clouds, and they have a lot of textures and a lot of fun colors. And whenever you're looking at space, you will find these. You will find these. So let's create something that looks like one of these clouds. We're just adding like random blots of color. There's no particular logic behind it. Maybe there are like different minerals that came together. They're relatively the same color because they're related. Yeah, it's just like it's just like a random blob. So, what we're doing now is that I am going to teach you about layers. Layers are essentially like sheets of paper that are transparent, but you can add objects on top of them such that you create a drawing, right? So you can add things and you can sort them, and you can group them as well and move them as groups. But within layers, you also have different types of layers. So right now, this is a normal layer. It's pretty much an object to which I added things. But we can add different stuff, different specifications to the behavior of a layer. So, what are those specifications? We can modify transparency, for example. We can make it so that it's really uh, it's really transparent, like as if I had done a very light coat of paint. Or we can make it as if it was the original coat of paint. We can like modify this transparency. And if we modify it to look like this level, it already looks like like an interesting picture of space, right? It already looks like we're taking a look outside. But let's do a couple of other things. um, since this is a normal layer, it's just a layer with objects. The stars here are not really shining. It's as if we had like fog ahead of them. But we want our stars to look like like they're actually stars. Like they're so bright, they're coming. Their light is coming across these like random clouds of space. So what we're trying to create essentially is stars that are as bright as these Among Us stars. And hold on, what kind of layer would be good for this? It depends. There's like a clearing layer, and this starts to look a little bit more like what we want. There's a whitening layer, and what this does is that it essentially, it adds the colors we want to the white areas that we have. There's also a color layer, and the color layer does the same, but it's more biased towards the actual color rather than brightness. There's a division layer, and division layers do basically, they invert colors. So we had, in a normal situation, we had this, but if we took the divided colors, we'd have this. How do you know what a divided color is? You would need to study a color wheel and the logic of a color wheel. But don't worry, that's something you can learn in color theory. It goes kind of beyond the purpose of this stream. There are just situations where you might want to use a division layer. There's also luminosity layers, and what they do is that they merely behave as light. So now we have this thing, or cloud, no longer matters because of its colors. It just matters because of the way it lightens the objects behind it, as if it was sensitive to light. There's also soft light, and soft light is kind of like color, but it's a bit softer. Yeah, it's like a coloring tool. There's normal, which is the one that we had at the beginning. There's a multiplication. Multiplication is typically for darkening stuff. So here we have a dark segment of space, and there's darkening, which is a softer form of multiplication. You will see that darkening, for example, respects a bit of the lumps of circle whenever they're a bit gray. There's screen, and screen is really interesting because it's the thing that we're actually looking for. You see, we look at these and they're still white compared to normal. Let's go back to normal. Normal darkens them, but screen actually respects these like white specks. And there are a couple of other ones. There's burn, there's saturation, there's sum. Sum is actually probably the right choice here. It also respects that. But and finally there's superposition. Superposition is like really similar to the darkening tools that we had before. When do you use when? It depends on what you're trying to draw, right? But in general, there are certain layers that make your drawing brighter and others that make your drawing darker. And when do you use when depends entirely on what you're trying to do. Further ahead in the stream, I will show you how to use multiplication layers to create shadows that have temperature. So you can create temperature with light. And yeah, how do we do that? I don't know. No, I do know, but I will show you a bit ahead. Let's just take it easy. So we were divided between screen and sum, and what I'm seeing is that when I use sum, there's actually more respect for the white light. And what we want is a white light. So we are going to use a sun layer instead of a screen layer. It's helping us keep the brightness of the stars a bit more like what we want them to do. And now let's take that down to around 30%. The transparency is going down to around 30%. And now we actually have space. Now we actually have something that looks like space. I'm gonna have to come back to this video sometime because there is no way I can write down all of this. No, yeah, it's fine. Now we're putting all of this in a group. And what we have is like our drawing in layers. Right? So this representation of space has 3 layers. Mm-hmm. Okay, now that we drew the background, let's draw the character. We're going to draw an Achaemenid. Right. I mean, I also don't have the time to watch all this now, but I can't think of another time to watch it that isn't the middle of the night, so now it's better than ever for learning art. You can always rewatch this stream. Something tells me that it's going to be one of my bigger streams because most people actually watch me for this sort of content. So yeah. All right. So what we're doing basically is trying to create the Among Us animation. And how do we do it? We already have the background for our expelled crewmate, let's say. And now we're going to create the crewmate. What are we going to create for the crewmate? Just this ball. It's not going to have a hat, it's just going to be the ball. And now I am going to actually show you 50 minutes deep into the stream how to create a Countryball. Yeah, okay. First things first, whenever you are drawing, you are likely to have a tablet or a mouse that is not going to be wholly sensitive to the movements of your wrist. You basically have software that is designed to follow the trackings of a piece of hardware that tries its best to track the movements of your hand to like the inputs that you're giving it. And the problem is that if you're being very fast, for example, you will notice this problem where the lines are jagged, right? Here it's not really noticeable, but whenever you're doing curves, you will notice here that there are like spikes, right? Whenever a human being draws, they don't draw like this a curve, right? They don't do these little pauses. But whenever you're trying to make a computer keep track with you, they will do these little pauses because they're not able to read your inputs as good as if it was paper. What the computer is doing is translating little bits of electricity into the inputs of a mouse, basically. And that is very imperfect unless you get like a tablet that is very expensive. And if you're doing entry-level art, as I was when I started drawing Polandball, that's going to be very difficult. That's going to be a standard of quality that you might not be able to do if you are just going crazy with this kind of thing. Most softwares are very imperfect and they're not very good at tracking this kind of thing. Surprisingly, Paint is good at this. Like Microsoft Paint is probably, well, if you try to do this kind of thing in Paint, it will not give you jagged lines. But the reason is that Paint is actually very simple and it limits your ability to create. You know, it doesn't give you many brushes, it doesn't give you many things, but in exchange, it gives you a lot of input quality. So if you're trying to draw a circle, what do you do, right? If I was drawing the letter O, as I do when I write, you will notice that it's a little jagged here, right? Like, this is a good example. Let me draw the jags. Here's a cut. 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 It's starting to look like segments of, yeah, like segments of a square. You know, it's no longer a circle. It's more like a kind of polyhedron that's very similar to a circle, but it's not. So how do we fix that? Because one of the most important things in Polandball is that we can't use the circle tool. So if we want to draw a Polandball and we do it like, wait a second. If we want to draw a Polandball and we do it like this and this and this, let's make Germany again. This is against the rules. Most people will tell you this kind of Polandball is lazy, that it's not actually a Polandball because you use the circle tool, that you are, you know, it looks weird even. It looks a bit too uniform, too perfect for the kind of blob that Polandballs tend to be. It looks like it's not interacting with gravity or with any sort of object. It's very round, and it is very round because it's a circle. So typically, since you can't use the circle tool, what you would have to do is draw the Polandball by hand. But how do you draw a circle if you have a mouse or a tablet that's imperfect, that is not tracking the movement of your hand as well as you could? Let's see. Let me read the chat a little. So this is how I'm spending my first night at college. Wonderful. No. This is amazing and very important knowledge. Attempts to resist the... So it's all made of pixels. It is made of pixels. Yeah. An apeirohedron, if you will. Yeah, on Cannibal. Germany ball too perfect for this one. Yeah. You go, Rab. Let's go. Hey, Tomoya, how are you doing? I was thinking of rating you once this stream ends, so I mean, I hope you're still streaming. Otherwise, this is going to be very awkward. But yeah, so the thing is that when you're doing art in these kinds of softwares, most people are aware that you will have this problem with a tablet, right, or with a mouse. So what you do is that you use in most tools that you have, you will have a feature called stabilization. And there are various forms of stabilization. There are some that are more customizable than others. In my opinion, Medibank, I'm going to write it. Medibank, this software has the best stabilization out of a free piece of software. But, okay. Here I wrote Medibank with stabilization. This is actually a lot closer to my handwriting. But here I'm writing it with without. So you can see it's similar, but when you look at it on top, it actually looks like, you know, the handwriting of someone. And when you look at it below, you will see it looks more like a computer trying to resemble the handwriting of someone. So yeah, it helps if you don't have a very expensive tablet to look at stabilization settings and find one that works for you. Stabilization has two kinds of functions. The first one is delay, and delay basically makes your it makes your pen follow like a slow track of pixels. And there's also sampling, and what sampling does is that it makes your it follows the How do I explain this? You see this circle? It basically makes your line draw closer to the actual circle of what you're doing. So basically, this circle will be like the tolerance. The bigger circle is the tolerance of what you're drawing, and the smaller circle is where your pen actually is. So you're giving essentially space to the computer to sort of predict where you're where what you're drawing, where what you are drawing, where what you're drawing is, right? So the circle, the outer circle is the prediction, the inner circle is the actual drawing. So when I draw, I like to have this very small circle as the pen, and this bigger one as the prediction. So it's not like a crazy level of correction. It's just enough so that the pen works like an actual pen. And yeah, I like to add counting to 100 and 3 pixels of delay. And if you're trying to draw a circle, this is actually a lot better, right? It's a lot better. There you go. There you have something that looks like a circle. Then you can add a transformation tool and maybe deform it a bit so it starts to look like something that's round. And something else you could do is maybe comb it here at the top and make that line a little bit thicker so it looks like it was done in a single stroke. And there you go. Now you're starting to get something that resembles more what people expect to look at when they look at a Polandball. It's kind of dumpy. It's kind of circular, but not in like a weird way. And since it has this round part below, if we wanted, something we could do is turn it into like its bottom. So now it's kind of responding to gravity. It's being deformed at the bottom because it's standing on top of something. So yeah. You can do this as beautification, as a form of, making your ball a little bit more perfect and round. But there you go. If you added something like eyes here, wait, let's add eyes. Now it looks like a Countryball actually. It would need a background, but pretty much that's what we have. Okay, let me read chat. I'm good. I saw you were streaming, so I wanted to say howdy before I went. Hello, Tomoe. Thank you for passing by. I really appreciate you coming by. I don't get it. Can't you just draw whatever you want? Is this thing guiding you in some way? And no, it's not guiding you. It's just, try to draw a circle with your mouse in paint. When you try to do that, you will notice it's incredibly difficult because the movement of your hand and the movement of the mouse are not connected. Whenever you start drawing digital art, there will be like a small window of time when you won't be physically used to the consequences of your actions, because drawing in paper is very different to drawing in digital, right? So what this does is that it makes drawing in digital more like drawing in paper. And it basically does an algorithmic correction for the mouse, not for you. And it adds a little delay that makes it behave more like what you would draw if you were drawing a pen. So let me do it again. I will write the word mythical. Mythical. This actually looks like handwriting, right? But if I remove the stabilization and try to write the same thing, you will notice it's a lot more jagged and awkward. So what I'm doing here is basically making the pen behave more as if it was interacting with paper. That's what's going on. Circle. I'm working as a graphic designer for years and I never heard about stabilizers like Medibank. I will maybe try it. Yeah, no, Medibank is a drawing software that has a stabilizer. Photoshop, for example, has an integrated stabilizer. Uh, what they do is that they make your mouse behave more like a pen. So so that's going to be really useful if you are someone who is coming from traditional art tools into digital art tools, because digital art tools are very different. And yeah. How can you draw special countryballs, especially that four-dimensional cube? It seems impossible. No, it's not that hard. Let me like, you want to draw a cube? Drawing a cube is really simple. You just do it like you did in high school, right? You make a square this way, and then maybe you add eyes here, and there's your happy cube. How do you draw a four-dimensional cube? You can't draw in 4 dimensions because 4 dimensions are impossible to see. Right? But I think what you mean is not drawing in 4 dimensions. You're talking about the hypercube, which is the 3D shadow of a 4 dimensional cube. Hi Ravi. Hi Rosa. Thank you for coming by. Rosa is another of my friends. She and I will be streaming a game together. If you wanted to do a hypercube, let me show you how that's done. You draw a cube like this, and that's your cube. And if you wanted to draw a hypercube essentially is like the shadow of a hypercube is like this. It's a 4-dimensional projection of a 3D object. This is a hypercube. I could add a lot more details to it, but the moment you start adding details to it, you start to see that, a lot of shapes don't really make sense. And it's not supposed to make sense, right? Because it's the shadow of an object in 4 dimensions. We're not meant to see that. Yeah. Or even if it's not only for mouse, it will be nice to make it less control set. Yeah. Hello, Kame. We're drawing countryballs. Kazakhstan and Israel are different countryballs. Yes. To draw Kazakhstan, you draw a brick, and then you draw the eyes, and then maybe here's the part of the flag that's symbols, and then there's the part of the flag that's that. But we're drawing the Achaemenids, so let's do that instead. Okay, so this countryable is going to be shocked. Why? Because it has been thrown. It's been thrown out of a spaceship, so it's really concerned. Now here it looks very round, but I will tell you something that I like to do when I'm drawing countryballs. I like to make eyes with the pressure sensitive pen because it gives them a lot more texture, right? When you're drawing eyes, this kind of visual weight helps you create emotion. I'm a lurk while I get out of bed. Yeah, feel free to lurk. This is like a very basic art class. We're doing countryballs, which aren't like the most complex thing on earth, but it's what my channel's about for the most part. So yeah. Let me draw like anime eyes for Rosa, given that she's here. If I were to create like the sketch of Rosa's VTuber model, for example, when I add this little like thinner line at the bottom. Wait. I am telling you that the important part of the drawing is the one that's up here. I am asking you to focus on like the upper half. And that you can do very efficiently with controlling the weight of your line. So now let's add I think her hair goes a little like this. It's like a bulb here. Wait, there's stabilization. So there's like a bulb here, and then there's like another thing here. She has glasses that she broke accidentally at her forge. Something like this. She has like little snake tongue. And yeah, that's me trying to reconstruct her VTuber. Well, wait, no, she has these little tails as well. Yeah, like I don't know what this hairstyle is called. It's like pigtails, but not exactly. There's also like her hair's like this. It's like a little bit no, rustly. Yeah. So this is Rosa. Yeah. Yeah, and what I'm trying to convey is that if I was trying to do the same thing with a, a fixed line, it would be a lot more. Yeah, it would be a lot more difficult to communicate. For example, that this strand of hair is thinner than this one, which is like closer to her eyes. So cute, I love it. I'm glad you like it. Draw pork bun? Countryball was not the imposter. Oh, pork bun is like I'm trying to draw with like very limited space, so okay, there she has like a little hood here. And these ears, which are triangular, there's like flowers where her ears are. I think the body of her model is something like this. But she has a cape as well and wings. So something like that. Anyway, we're getting distracted. Let's draw the eyes. So I am going to make the eyes. How am I going to make him? I'm going to add pressure, like a uniform level of pressure, uh, around the eyes. But I'm going to make these lines very thin because they're like stressed eye bags. You know, the eye bags of a stressed person. They're less. They're less thick than the outlines of the eyes itself. And when we look at the Countryball from afar now, it does look stressed. It looks like it's going through its issues. So yeah. Uh, I thought we were supposed to learn how to draw balls here. Yeah, that's what we're. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So now the Countryball looks stressed. Mm. It seems like here I committed a bit of a silly mistake with the outline of the circle. Let me try to make it look more like it was a single trace. There we go. I might need to do a bit of making up here. And yeah. So now we have what essentially is the body of a Countryball. Mm. Now, if we remove the background, you will see that its eyes are actually not white. We haven't added a white background to the eyes. And that's really important because when we are doing whenever you're drawing, if you're drawing with a white background, it can be easy to miss whether you've drawn like the back part of the eyes. If we were to switch this background for, let's say, a gray background, then it would be very clear that we haven't done the eyes right. And you don't want that to happen like in the middle of your drawing. So let's make the eyes white. And there's a couple of things I will mention. Later, you are gonna show how to draw the background, like maps and stuff. Yes, I will show you how to draw maps. Okay, here's the thing. Whenever we drew in Krita, what you will see is that we have something called anti-aliasing turned on. What is anti-aliasing? Anti-aliasing is basically this kind of blurry line that you see in the edge of a ball. Let me show you an example. Let me show you two examples of countryballs that are anti-aliased and one that is not. So here is a line without anti-aliasing. Wait, what? Okay, never mind. I made a mistake. Here is a line without anti-aliasing. You will see that it has pixels in its outline that are of a lesser transparency, right? But if you were, for example, going to Call Me Ezekiel's channel, you would find lines like this, where you don't have that pixelation, right? Uh, so I like these ones better than these ones, but there are a lot of Countryball YouTubers that like these ones better, and that's fine. You know, it's a stylistic choice. If you're trying to do Countryballs like me, let's turn this on again. Whenever you're doing like the filling of your Countryball, you will notice that the filling tool turns the inner line as the jack line of Ezekiel's videos, for example. It will create these like very hard jagged pixels. If you want to do, if you want to keep the anti-aliasing, what you do is that you go to the layer below and you add them, and that creates this like illusion of respect. So now you have a Countryball with eyes, and you combine these layers. So now these two layers that were separate, so basically you had yeah, you had white eyes in the background and sort of the eyes itself themselves as something apart. You combine them, now they're a single layer, and they respect the anti-aliasing, and that's how you create eyes as I draw them. This is something very important because yeah, whenever you're doing an art style, it's kind of important that you try to be consistent, because otherwise it might be difficult for you to identify, you know, for you to have a distinguishable kind of presentation, I want to say. For example, if you look at Crowd's early videos, his art style evolved a lot. He changed a lot in how he used to draw, and I changed a lot in how I used to draw back then. And if you look at the turkey videos compared to these videos that we're making right now, it's very hard to say that they were made by the same people or the same person. The moment you start to generate an art style, most of what generating an art style is just developing consistency, developing a kind of standardized way to draw things that you like or that you enjoy. And yeah, so now we have the eyes. Let me read the comments for a little. Rap, draw pork bun as a middle-aged man. I'm not going to draw VTubers here, or we're going to be in the stream forever. Okay, later you're gonna show how to draw the background like maps? Yes. A hollow-eyed Countryball would be pretty creepy. It would, yes. Is anti-aliasing good or bad? It's not good nor bad. It's stylistic. It depends on whether you like it or not. Let me show you something. If you are trying to draw, let's see. Yes. If you're trying to draw a tree, let me draw a tree. Um, okay, let's draw like a basic tree. This is a tree with no anti-aliasing. No, it has anti-aliasing. You can see that it has a sort of contour. There's the trunk. When I do textures, whenever I'm texturizing a tree, or texturizing anything really, what I like to do is play with transparencies. So let me show you how I would do this. What I'm doing here is that I'm using a low transparency tool and drawing many times on top of it so that it starts to look like, you know, like an actual plant. There's like degrees of brightness and that sort of thing. maybe once that the color is a bit mashed, I can do color uniformation. I can make it a bit more uniform. Let's make it something like 20% because 40% was a bit excessive, right? And then let me give a little texture to the tree. What would I do? Okay, I will take this tool, which is called the rake, and I will rake like the outlines of uh, of the trunk. So if this was a tree, it would look like this. Maybe the further down you go, this part would be dark, and then the further like down you go, it would be lighter. And then you have something that looks like an actual tree. It's not perfect because I drew it really quickly, but um, it gives you the illusion of a tree. And when you look at the anti-aliasing, it actually makes the shading look organic, right? It makes it look like a sort of texture that is distinct from the background. And that's why I like it. Now let's try to do the same without that. And, if you wanted to create more like a pixel art style, what you would do is that you would put maybe the trunk here, and maybe here's your tree. And if you were trying to do lights, then maybe you would do. Mm, yeah, you would do something like this. Let's make that 60% that way. No, that's too much. 20. Yeah. And if you look at it, it's not exactly the same, right? It's like pixelated. It's very clear that there are pixels and it really jumps at you. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that, but some people like it, and it depends, right? It's an art style. Um, yeah, basically, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It depends on the situation. It depends on the thing you're trying to draw. Maybe anti-aliasing would be easier for coloring, and yeah, that sort of thing. What if you end up copying someone else's art style? If you are genuinely trying to draw and kind of develop your own thing, you can have a starting point, but you will never copy someone else's art style because it's really difficult to do. Like even with countryballs, it's difficult to do. So yeah, don't worry about that. Unless you're like tracing them or something, you will never quite get someone else's art style. Okay. So what I did here now is I added like a background color for this ball. The way I add background colors is you have seen me do it with Germany before, but I take a color, I take a pen which has a certain color, and then I make the pen really big, and then the pretty much everything around the ball is uh, a certain color. Now I use a smart selection tool to select the things that are outside of the ball itself. I delete them. Now you pretty much have the ball there. You pretty much have the ball there. And yeah, that's perhaps the simpler part of this thing that we were doing. Um. All right. All right. Mm. So next part, you will notice that here we had like Complicated. What is the flag of the Achaemenids? The Achaemenids were a people that did not have a flag because flags were an invention of France in the 14th to 12th century, right? These were like battle insignias that maybe the Romans had something similar to flags, but they weren't quite flags. So, what we often do in countryballs is that we create these things that are like icons that are the icons or the symbols of a people or a culture, and we add them on top of a colored background. In the case of the Achaemenids, if you go to the Polandball wiki, um, yeah, if you go to the Polandball wiki, you will see that there is a design for the flag of the Achaemenids. Let me find it for you. And yeah, yeah, it's basically here. It's this one. This is the country wall of the Achaemenids, right? What I tried to create here is pretty much over there. So yeah, that's the flag of the Achaemenids. Now we need. There's a Poland Ball wiki. Let me do something real quick. Yeah, I posted a link in the chat. I might add it to the description of the video for those of you who are not watching it live. Um, yeah, what's going on here is basically that this is a website where a bunch of people have kind of thought about country balls and different symbols and ways to represent them, and we've kind of convened on various ideas for various cultures. And when you have doubts about how to represent a particular country, you go to the Polandball wiki, and chances are you will find one that resembles what you want to create. So, are we going to draw an eagle like this one? No, because time is money, and we don't want to do that. So I am copying it from Wikipedia because Wikimedia has a bunch of eagles, and then I'm inserting it, and there we go. Now, right now, it looks really awkward and clunky, right? It looks really awkward and clunky. It's like I plastered something on top of the face of a creature. But what I can do is transform it with this circular deformation tool so it looks more like it's part of the deformed ball itself, right? Consider it this way. Mm, mm, yeah, now it looks more like it's part of the circle. It looks organic, sort of. We cheated, but we cheated like smart people. And now this actually looks like a country ball. Yeah, there we go. Now that we have the symbol, we can kind of tweak the eyes in a way that they're better placed. We would like uh, important parts of the symbol to be visible. So let's make it so that we can see the beak, we can see at least one of the legs, and there we have it. That's even worse than using the circle tool, heresy. It is. But when Kraut and I, or in the Quebec series, for example, we have um, we draw the assets ourselves, basically. So there are times when the assets are extracted, like, flat out from websites, like the Eagle of the Qing dynasty. So, for instance, this one would be very difficult to draw if you were doing it by hand. So we have taken the pre-existing design from Wikimedia and just used it a couple of times. But when designs are simpler, we can actually create things that resemble the particular Countryball style that we might be using. So, for example, in the Quebec series, we actually made handmade custom designs for the flag of Canada. And here they are. So whenever you have to draw like these things, uh, yeah, whenever you have to draw these things one time, two times, if you have to draw them by hand, that's fine. But when you're making the video essays that we're making, you're drawing them hundreds, if not thousands of times. I have drawn the old flag of Canada, like the red ensign, at least 250 times, at minimum. And the issue with that is that, whenever you're doing that a lot of times, you need to think of ways to create that automation. Otherwise, you're doing things at a sort of craftsmanship's level that would make creating these videos impossible with the amount of money that we are that we have to make them right now. So yeah, you do have to use assets. Maybe it feels dirty, but everyone in the art business uses assets. It's nothing out of this world. You take it, you assimilate it, you live with it. So yeah, sorry if this kills a bit of the magic, but the videos have to be made. And yeah. Might be outside the scope, but how did you get started with Polandball? I actually started with Polandball when I started drawing for crowd. So I wasn't a Polandball artist before, I was a general digital artist. But countryballs are not like particularly difficult. You can just quite easily, yeah, you can easily learn to draw them once you have like the very basic precepts of digital art. And I was into digital art. Like my the she's a high school friend of mine who helped me create this VTuber model that you're seeing right now. She got me into digital art way before I even started drawing Polandball, and I drew before. And then I moved on to Polandball, so I guess I had skills prior, if you want to put it that way. Okay, the next thing is not going to be necessary for this drawing. But what I've done is that I've created the base of a shadow. Um, when I'm creating this base of a shadow, I basically have to think where the light is coming from. Let's say it's coming from above. And there you have like the essence of a ball that's getting light from above, not below, and then it has like this shadow over here. If we turn this layer into one of the darkening layers, let's make it a multiplication layer, we can create a very organic looking shadow. If we left that as normal, it would be different. If we left that as dark, it would be different. If we left that as green, it wouldn't change much. If we made that a sum, it would be invisible. If we made it a superposition, we would have the top part, but not the bottom part. But the moment we make it multiplication, we have like a Countryball and its shadow. But I thought drawing is free. Yeah, drawing is free. What do you mean? um, so yeah, that would be like a finished Countryball, but this is not the The Countryball that we're using, right? Because we need to think. This is how we would do shadows in a normal situation, but in this case, we're not using shadows. And let me explain to you why. Because when we go to space and we're going to make this like optical illusion for our animation, what we're going to do is that we're moving this Countryball to the center. Wait a sec. I did it in the wrong order. Yeah. This Countryball is going to be in the center. It's going to be spinning. So let me make it spin like this. And while it's spinning, the background is going to move to the left. So now what we have done is that we created the Among Us thing, right? This is we've essentially made an animation with nothing but 2 frames. Drawing is free, the bills are not. Yeah. Why do you need money to draw? Oh, uh, well, you gotta think. I, I'm a Marxist. Well, I'm not a Marxist, but I was educated by Marxists to a degree, and everything that you make is something that you make at the expense of everything else that you could be doing that you're not doing. So every hour that I've been here streaming these like country balls were hours that I didn't spend at work, that I didn't spend at university, and that I didn't spend at uh, that kind of thing, right? So uh, if I could get paid to do like a bunch of these Polandball things, and I had like enough money to live off it, I would do it. I really love this line of work and these opportunities that I found. But though drawing is free, it's basically a job the moment you start doing country balls, right? So you can absorb that opportunity cost, and you can do it because you're passionate about it, and I'm passionate about it. But I do need to pay the bills. I'm an adult. I'm 24, so yeah, it's just part of the job, I guess. But I don't do anything anyway. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're relatively young and you're still like in a stage of your life where you're acquiring skills, then yeah, don't worry about it. Maybe there's um you can absorb some of that opportunity cost. But I'm about to reach my mid 20s, so I don't have that luxury as much. So yeah. Why does Kazakhstan have such a good flag? I don't know. Maybe they had a very good designer. Once the Soviet republics crashed down, a lot of people had like very good ideas for flags. So yeah. All right. Well, we finished. We're pretty much done with the first paragraph. So this is in reality no evidence whatsoever of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father. Well, someone is saying this. Our Polandball here will be traveling through space. So blah blah blah. There is no evidence. The Polandball was expelled from the Among Us game without any kind of evidence, right? So now we add, let's say, the text. What is the text in Among Us? I need to check that. A crewmate has been expelled. build, I think. Ah, yes, good advice. Don't worry about the crushing reality of life until it actually concerns. No, no, it's more that, if you're relatively young, you still can learn, right? You still can. Uh, there's still a lot you could be doing with your time that could get you to a position like the position that I am in right now. You're just gonna make the right decisions, and you're in the perfect moment to make those decisions. Um, it's not like you can't make them later. It's that, uh, yeah, whenever you're an adult, uh, making these choices gets a lot more complicated. Starting a business, starting a project, it's always a risk. It's always a risk, and yeah, you're always doing things with your time that you could be doing something else. And yeah, you can be really passionate about things, but you gotta eat by the end of the day. You gotta pay rent. And that's why I try so hard to get you all to become Patreons and channel members. Please become Patreons and channel members. You would help me make more videos. And yeah. Okay, anyway. Going back from that little capitalism discussion, let's. I have to remember what the Among Us text is. It's. Okay. I'll make it. Achaemenid wasn't an imposter. What? An imposter remains. Let's see how it looks. This is so dumb. Okay, let me make it bigger. Uh, yeah, I like this. So here's a tool. Here's a little hack, right? These lines default to the center, and one way that you can center your objects is by aligning the transformation. By aligning these like central axis of the object to the central axis of the thing. Um, and yeah, I came in. It wasn't an imposter. One imposter remains. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now that I made this, I've noticed something about this layer, which is that it would be good if it was a bit darker. So this space is very good, but it's very bright. Here, for example, the letters are blending a little. Let me see if it would blend the same with movement. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm being finicky. I had it right the first time. So yeah. Okay, so we finished our sequence. The way this would look the moment we animated it, it would be like this. This country ball here would be spinning. While it's spinning, space will move to the left, and while it's spinning, it'll also be moving from this part of the screen to this part of the screen. So it's basically doing something like this. And once it's gone, we see Kevin, it wasn't an imposter. One imposter remains. Love your videos. Thank you. Thank you, Riley. But yeah, this is how you create a pull and ball sequence. Now, how would you make these animations? Like right now, I'm telling you, oh, this moves from the left to the right and to the right from the right to the left and things like that. I need spinning. You do that in the editor, and editing is a different part of working. But when we edit, we basically make all these little things that you see on the screen make sense. We make them spin, we make them move. Right now, drawing is just about creating the assets and the objects. The moment you have these done, um, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. So if we look at what I will do now is I will save each of these files as independent files ready to be used. So I am saving the Polandball, this one, as a transparent layer. So SRE1. Wait, I'm going to call it AlexX1. That's going to be one file. And then this white text, it's going to be a different file. ALXX2. And then our drawing of space is going to be saved as ALXX0, because that's the order in which they would be employed on screen. It's important to name your files in a sort of sequence, because whenever you're editing videos, right, uh, it's useful to know the order of things as you're making them. So yeah, the text is typed out as he goes on the screen in Among Us. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how it would look. If we had a bit more time, I would edit the sequence and show you guys how the edited sequence would look. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it at the drawings. This is how you would draw a Polandball uh, in this way, basically. We've been going on for 2 hours. Uh, let's look at it again. So there is, in reality, no evidence whatsoever of the Achaemenids being responsible for the death of Alexander's father. Let's combine that into a single thing. We got rid of the blue part. And now we have to do the green part. I am. Uh, you're naming it after me? Yeah, I'm naming it after you. I'm not naming it after Alexander the Great, who is the person this project is about. No, no, no. Okay, Alexander comes to Anatolia presenting himself as the liberator of the Greeks under Achaemenid rule. Here he visits a pilgrimage site that is claimed to be the tomb of the mythical figure Achilles. Hmm. Okay, let's go back to what we said at the beginning. Um, Visualization is the most difficult part of drawing. So think for yourselves how you would visualize this drawing, and then I will be doing the same. Keep the idea, keep your idea in your mind. Don't tell it to me because, coming up with this stuff is my job. But keep it for yourself. Think if you were in my position, if you were drawing, if you had the ability to represent an idea in whichever way you want it, right? How would you make someone else understand this? How would you make it simple? Because remember that a lot of the people who watch your videos are not necessarily super into history, right? They're not people who have a formal education in history, they're just watching a YouTube video. And if you fill your YouTube video with like weird references to like heroes of Hiroshima and shit, people they will have a very difficult time understanding. Uh, you gotta make information accessible. So think about how you would represent this for someone else, um, in the simplest way possible. And if you're able to do that, you will have figured out the secret to art, which is conveying meaning through aesthetic inspiration, through aesthetic bliss, instead of simply conveying it with, text, which is like, uh, yeah, the information by itself. I'm not sure if it's more or less creative to use references when drawing. It is. It is because all art is referential. All art is referential. You cannot create art without taking a look at things that already exist, or things that uh or things that are a part of reality. Because you can't art fundamentally is about communication. And if you don't know what you want to communicate, it's going to be very difficult for you to express anything, right? So yeah. Huh, okay. Now let me focus. I need to think how I would do this. Let's play thinking music. Because I had that. I just didn't play it. I meant referencing things like Among Us. Why can't Among Us be art? Oh, a Ravi art stream? Yes! We're doing the boring part of the art, though, which is visualization. We're just thinking right now. Rav drew you earlier. Yeah, I sketched your character, Porkbon. Rosa came here and she said, "Oh yeah, yeah." It was like very quick. I was giving people like a very brief lesson on using weight in lines, and yeah, they asked me. Someone asked me to draw your character, and I drew it very quickly. It isn't great, but I tried from memory. So yeah, yeah. Okay, what's the thinking music? Uh, it's a playlist called "Studying Like a Scholar in the Baroque Period." So I guess it's that. But we're thinking right now. We're doing the part of art which is the most boring, but the most, yeah, the most kind of important in a way, which is thinking seriously about what we want to represent, because otherwise we're kind of doomed and dumb, you know? How are we going to make it so this thing can be understood by someone who has no idea? What have I come up with? I haven't come up with anything yet. We aren't supposed to tell you what we think, right? You can if you want to, but ideally not. I've got an idea, but no sharing yet. Oh, you're faster at this than I am. Or maybe I have done this a lot of times and I'm kind of burnt out of concepts. Okay. Mm, what would be good? Okay, let's sketch. I'm having a difficult time. So, one thing you can do is sketch. So, Alexander comes to Anatolia, which is this thing, saying that he will free the Greeks. So, it would be, I'm going to free the Greeks under a Achaemenid rule. Here he visits a pilgrimage site that is going to be... I have an idea! Let's make... Let's make a 300 reference. Let's go. Yeah. You're burned out of content, then I'm taking back my money. No, don't take back your money. I'm just... I was just saying that, you know, maybe I have done this process so much that I'm not as quick as to think of things because I've exhausted my knowledge in mainstream media to the degree that I to the degree that I'm having trouble coming up with stuff. But I managed to come up with something for Sparta. Yeah. Yeah. So what's gonna happen? What's going to happen is that there's like this meme called My Ancestor. Yeah. Where it's like a guy. Yeah, it's like a cool guy and a guy that's not as cool. And it's saying like, oh yeah, this guy is my ancestor. Something like this. So basically, Alexander is going to be saying, "Oh yeah, I am going to be doing what my ancestors, the Spartans, did. Right? I come here to take the war to the Persians, and I am going to be visiting somewhere to like make a continuation of this heritage." I guess. You know, it's not like the smartest idea, but but yeah, it works. It's going to be an efficient way to communicate what we're trying to communicate. It also doesn't need to be very complicated because these memes are not very complicated, and the core of these things we're discussing is that we're trying to make simple ideas. So let's go. All right. Uh, let's not forget our basics. We're going to create the focus frame. Remember, this is important. We're doing thirds. This is not quite a third. A third would be about a little more below. There we go. So this meme format is relatively simple. What we will be doing is essentially a mirrored image. We can use this thing to create our mirror. This is only to mark positions. We're not actually going to use these circles. But one Polandball will be here and the other one will be here. And they will be broadly aligned with these screenwriting things that we're making. So let's make a circle. Because we're making Alexander now. Yes. This is pretty good. Now we just have to like slightly comb these things out. Wait, that was a bit excessive. More or less, we get something resembling a ball. This way it looks more like yes. There we go. Let's make it stand here. And this is going to be Alexander the Great. Remember, we are doing the eyes with the pressure sensitive one so that they can add a little bit more emotion than the flat circles. Okay, let me mark the position of the eyes first. Okay, that's gonna be good. That looks okay. People get memes, they don't get abstract art. Yeah! If you want to communicate something to someone, you know, if you're good at education, if you're good at communicating things, it doesn't feel like homework. One thing that I try very hard is that I don't use classroom scenes. I don't use scenes where a character is reading or portraying one thing to the other as if they were telling them something, like sitting from a book, as some American shows used to do, because, you know, that's like putting you in a classroom, right? You're watching a YouTube video. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be having fun. Haha. So do you draw a scene for each paragraph or a few sentences? Yes, that's how I work. I think of a concept and then I basically go forward with that concept. We're making an Alexander Hamilton the Great. Oh, that would have been such a good idea as well. I didn't think of it. But that's good, you know? Oh yeah, I forgot that those only work in comments, not live chat. No, it can work. But classrooms can be fun. Yeah, classrooms can be fun, but here's the thing. Most men and most kids who have grown up in this particular moment in history are developing ADHD and similar kind of mental disabilities at rates that we simply haven't seen before. And education is increasingly intermingling with entertainment for the simple fact that it's simply the way that we can maximize most people's ability to understand these kinds of things. The best education in the future is going to be education that combines its kind of more educative aspects with entertainment. And sadly, classrooms aren't entertaining for most people. One thing I was reading recently in a psychology paper was that the amount of kids that are kind of like moving and stumbling and can't really move and stay put and stay in place in a classroom are mostly like young boys that are struggling with their homework and things like that. But YouTube videos that are able to express things in a fun way are a good countermeasure to that kind of thing. You know, it's a bit more hard on the part of the educator because educators don't only have to concern themselves with understanding the information that they're giving to others, but they also have to concern themselves with making sure people understand. You know, making sure people aren't only learning, but they're learning in a way that they're engaged with the information they're being presented. And you know what? That's a difficult job for a teacher. And one thing I've learned is that, for example, my Quebec video has been used in some Quebec classrooms to teach history to kids that otherwise wouldn't care. And I find that very, very comforting and flattering, because it means that I'm actually making a difference for people who need it. Right now, men are falling behind in pretty much every aspect of higher education. And there's a lot of sciences for why that's happening, but, you know, part of it is that men are more likely to develop ADHD, and classrooms are not exactly the place where, you know, where a person with ADHD can thrive. A lot of the conduct that you need to be inside a classroom is very quiet. It's not exactly physical. And that's very difficult for a lot of kids. But watching a movie or doing something engaging is not the same dynamic. So yeah. Oh my god, Quebec mentioned. Yeah, what I'm doing right now was basically I made the sun for Alexander. Behind his eyes, he has a sun. I basically created the asset that I inserted in the case of the what's the name? The Persian, the Achaemenid Countryball. Quebec mentioned. Yes. Yes, I am working on Quebec. Don't worry. Quebec is likely to be ready this summer. I found a theme. I'm getting people ready for it. A lot of work that was not being done is being done. So yeah. So what you're saying is that given the right material, I could get some of the most annoying people I know referring to the work as a whole skipping lessons to actually learn? I mean, yes. Yes. Yes, you could, but I understand why a lot of people don't engage as much, and it's because it's annoying. Learning in general is difficult, and a lot of people would rather not. You know, life is very complicated, and going to like teaching things and learning all that stuff, you know, you could be doing a lot more with your time. You could be like living a life and doing your projects. Not to say that, you know, it's not important, but we don't do a good enough job at justifying to most people why education is important. And in an age where information and conviction and the responsible use of information is this important, this is kind of a shortcoming of our society, I guess. Rab is gonna beat Bob in counting to three. That is very likely, yes. What does this mean for professors? What it means for professors is that education is very likely to change in the following decades. Yes, education is very likely to change in the following decades. And the reason why is simply that the classroom system in the United States was designed to educate factory workers to be factory workers. And right now, factories aren't a thing anymore in most places. Factories are a thing of the past. Factories have moved to China and to countries where it's cheaper to get manufacturing labor. So most Western countries are in a kind of moment in their history where the type of labor that is most required is capital investment and white-collar labor and kind of specialized intellectual labor, while at the same time, people don't really have the resources or the updated education system for that kind of person. So children go to school and they learn things as if they were going to work in an assembly line, but they don't really learn how to create a business or how to create anything or how to engage their own creative capabilities in a meaningful way. And so, the most important skills for the economy of the future are the least valued in traditional education. That's a kind of paradox of where we're at right now. I never learned how to be a factory worker in school. You say that, but in reality you did. You learned to go to rest when you heard the ringing of a bell. You learned to stand in line and to do like these very careful rituals where you enter and leave a space. You learn to have tickets and permits to move around. That sort of thing, right? That is how factories work. Did Alexander really have golden hair? I don't know, but the sponsor thinks he did, and you know what? With the money, danci di toki. That's... You learn to do what you're told. Yes, pretty much. You learn to be a worker in a chain of command, basically, which is not a bad thing, but it's not the way that people our age will have to be working. You're not going to be expected when you have a job, and I am warning you, you're not going to be expected to be able to follow orders most of the time. You're going to be expected to come up with solutions and to be a creative problem solver, and all those kinds of things. Because most labor right now, at least good paying labor, requires you to be capable to engage in some level of intellectual problem solving. And that's not what most people learn in school. They learn to be socialized for factory work. It would be good if the factories were still around, but they're not. So, what are we gonna do about that, huh? Were schools deliberately created that way? They were, yes. Um, the schooling system that you have in the United States was designed initially by Germans who wanted to create factory workers in their own system. It's called the Prussian education system. You can look it up. Um, and yeah, it's real. It was designed with that in mind. But, you know, a lot of schools are changing that. Um, there's like a new system of schooling called the International Baccalaureate. It was invented by the Swiss, that is trying to create more a kind of critical thinking education that I mean, I wouldn't know, but I heard they're being very successful at creating the kind of people that are necessary in a modern economy. Or rather, they are taking the attempt seriously, which is more than most people are doing. Switzerland has been like interesting as an innovator in education. Scandinavia as well, but Scandinavia has more than anything been good at doing things pertaining gender equality. And gender equality is good, but it's not necessarily the reforms needed for this factory stuff I'm teaching you about. Because if you have more women in factories, I mean, I guess that's good, but you're not solving the problem that there are not any factories anymore. So yeah. I can wait to get a degree for some AI to take my job. Go into intellectual labor. Don't go into labor that can be automated. Or do what I do and become a socialist. Let's nationalize the AIs. That's going to be one way. We get rid of that stuff. So it was all about discipline. It was, yes. I should have played this music from the beginning. It's actually great. Hence why some teachers feel so militaristic. Most of them don't, though. Yeah. You know, the same education system we have right now, if you add physical discipline, which is like what most of probably people in Gen X still had to deal with, you would see that. Like, there are places in. There are people my age in South Korea, for example, that still got to live through a time where your teacher could beat you if you misbehaved while in class. And it's not nice. They have a lot of trauma because of it. But, you know, that's what the education system was designed for. To discipline people. Okay. Let's add the shadows. Convert AI the socialists that won't take your job. Yeah, exactly. Let's make the AI work for everyone instead for just a few people. It's that simple. People are like, oh no, the computers will take our jobs. What if we all own the computers, right? Like, am I actually a factory worker? If you need to work or else you die of starvation, you're working class. If you have a lot of money, but you would lose that money if you stop working, you're working class. The very, very, very rich people of this world don't need to work to keep their money. They're set for like generations because of the wealth of their grandparents. I feel like people nowadays aren't really disciplined though. What do you mean? Disciplined in what sense? I'm just making his hair, his locks a little spiky. I mean, I certainly know that there are quite a few people in the UK who would if it were legal. Having met or heard some of them just in some southeast alone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Discipline, disciplining people in schools is something that stopped being a thing like very, very recently. Like your teachers, still in like my father's generation, had like the ability to beat you. They would like take out rulers, wooden rulers, and like slap you in your fingers if you were misbehaving. My problem is I feel most entry level jobs can be replaced by AI, and I am 16, so I have AI of 6 years from now to deal with. Yeah, you're right. Vote for people who will help you not have that problem. Don't forget to vote. Your vote is really important as a young person. I'm not really explaining what I'm doing right now because uh, I'm going fast with things I already kind of discussed how I do, right? Wouldn't that be counterproductive though, as it would either foster rebellion and make their fingers hurt? What do you mean? I'm not sure I get you. I will vote for the Kill All Robots party. Yes, vote for the Luddite party. They actually exist. They're people who want to return to a simpler stage of human technology. I don't think they're particularly serious, but they're a party and they exist. You know the Return to Monkey guys? They're getting organized. Why aren't you? I'm just doing little cuts to the skirt so it looks more folded and military. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. I mean, you say that, but you're watching me draw on a computer generated by the Industrial Revolution through a computer generated by the Industrial Revolution. So our lives are possible because of all these things. And it's very possible we don't really need to quit all these good things. We just need to change our relationships to property. Because the way things are right now, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have created most wealth for like a small amount of people, basically. When you read things like, oh yeah, like liberals will say, oh, like capitalism since the 1950s has made most people it has moved most people out of poverty, right? That's true. But most wealth generated from the Industrial Revolution is not uh, in most people's hands. It's in a few hands. And that's not good. Uh, the problem of the 21st century, like the biggest problem we'll have to face, are problems around the fairness of distribution of capital. And it's not inherently obvious to me that we have good solutions right now. My final plan is just become Amish, maybe. You know what? That's not a bad idea. There's no. The Amish aren't struggling with the Industrial Revolution. They're still driving buggies. So we need to redistribute the wealth from people like Elon Musk to the working class? Maybe not. Maybe we just need to. I mean, I'm not really making an argument for taking people's money. I'm more so saying that ideally the economy would work in such a way that we wouldn't have that many Elon Musks if it meant we'd have the amount of poor people that we have right now. So, okay, let me show you. Some people say that let's make this chart. Let's say you have a few rich people over here and a few poor people over here. Maybe we should make something closer to this, let's say. Or maybe we could get like really ambitious and make something closer to this. We can still have rich people, and we still can have like measures of success, but I think it's going to be very difficult to create a world without luxuries and without poverty, because in some way inequality will always be a feature of human existence. But we can have a version of inequality where people don't have to die of hunger in the streets, right? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Mass production of penicillin doesn't feel like a disaster for the human race. I mean, I don't know. So we need to redistribute the wealth. Okay, Red. Print more money for the working. Yeah, that will work. Go for it. This drawing stream was really just Rad's manifesto. You people keep asking me about politics. I came here hoping to draw. I guess, but I'm a politics channel, so I mean, I guess it comes with the job. All right, so that's Alexander. Now I have to draw Leonidas. Let me think again. I need to remember what I'm doing. Okay. Uh-huh. So it's 2 a.m. Geez, I should probably be asleep. Go to bed. We're likely going to be going on for a few, for like 40 minutes more. Put a Terminator reference in the video because of the AI discussion? I don't know about that. I haven't watched the Terminator movie, so I wouldn't be making a very good reference. Okay. We didn't do this last time, but let's do it this time. It's touching a bit of the red line there, so we gotta move it down. And this is as good as it gets. Maybe we can make the text a little lower. And there we go. Now if we remove the lines, it's actually a lot more visually compact. Only 40 minutes? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's until I finish the paragraph. I don't think it'll take me that long. Alexander was the most difficult guy to draw here. I am going to teach you guys how to draw stone now. Drawing stone is actually simple. This is something that Teabag, if you remember Teabag, he invented it. Here I am just making an application of things that Teabag discovered. A stone statue of a Polandball. How big is a thread is AI to the job of artists? It is a very big thread, yeah. If you want me to debate like the economics of it, imagine, for example, that you have what would be a good example? Mm-hmm. Wait, I saw this in Crowd's videos. Yes, T-Vag invented it. I'm just going to make it Greek. But to get back to AI art, here's the thing. Whenever you have someone who has AI, the work that a computer can make will never be as good as that of a human artist in like a plethora of ways, right? In many ways, a human specialist. If you were doing like an argument for any of many things, a human will always be better at understanding meaning and understanding pictography and iconography than a computer, because a computer doesn't really know interpretation all that well. I can tell you as a mathematician that we can't really teach computers to interpret to interpret stuff. Computers are at a stage where they can create things, but the way they create things is by mashing a bunch of information together without necessarily knowing what they're doing. So one defect, for example, of AI art is that if you're creating a bee, if you ask an AI, like, draw a bee for me, please, chances are it will be able to draw something that looks like a bee according to all the information that it's been fed, but it's not going to be able to tell you, if you asked it to explain, what a bee is. And the human being could do that, right? So there's a fundamental difference in the way that the two create meaning. A human needs to be trained to understand abstraction. No. A human can understand abstraction in a way that a computer simply can't. And in that sense, human artists will always be advantaged. But AI is cheap. And, if you need like a really mediocre cover for like the book that your mother is making at retirement, right? She's retired. She decided, oh yeah, I want to make a book about my experience, despite not being a professional writer of any kind. I will tell the world what my life was, what my legacy was, and that kind of thing. It's probably going to be cheaper for her to get like a computer to generate a cover than to get an artist to draw it, because it's gonna cost her less money. She's not a studio. She may not necessarily understand why it's better to get a human involved, and that's the problem for AI artists, right? A lot of people who are going to be buying cheap art will devalue the work of human art via the use of computers. The cost of an AI cat girl, yeah. That's not gonna do you well. Okay. The statue is good. I gotta make it smaller because the crest is going to come out of the hat otherwise. But you can't always explain regular art. You can't explain it, but a human being will be better than a computer at conveying meaning almost like every single time, right? Because computers don't know what anything means. They just think. They're very fast at thinking, but they're really slow at interpretation. And human beings are the opposite. We're really good at interpretation, but we're really slow at thinking. So a computer could solve like mathematical equations. It could do like normalize a matrix, for example, way faster than any human being alive could, right? But a computer that normalizes a matrix will not be able to tell you what it did. It will just be able to do it. And that's the thing with AI art. That's what you lose when you save money, let's say. I was thinking things like Google Translate didn't kill the translation industry. Say I art really much more threatening. They did kill the translation industry in minor ways. Like people that are really young are no longer using translators. Like a professional translator is someone you might go to if you're like old and you need like some documentation papers done. But if you are trying to like get rid of your English homework, for example, and you don't want to bother and you just want to like translate an essay that you had for another class, uh, that thing you can only do now with a computer. The cheapest forms of translation are going to be done by computers. And it's the same with AI art. The cheapest forms of art are going to be done by AI. And what that will do is that it will devalue the the work of artists by creating an incredibly cheap yet passable alternative, right? Like if you were going to translate your manga, your Western manga to Japanese using like Google Translate, you would have an awful fucking time. But it would be cheaper than hiring a translator, and most Japanese people would understand it. You know, they would know it's botched, but you know, you can understand what a dumb AI is trying to tell you. Whenever it's translating a language that you speak, it's not really. Yeah, it's not. It just needs to be good enough to start being a market force. That's the thing. It doesn't need to be great. It doesn't need to kill the industry. It just needs to be good enough that it starts removing jobs from people. We'll create based on patterns, not creativity. Yes. AI art is sort of like mobile games. It's mass producible and soulless, while human art is more like expensive and has more soul. Yeah, kinda, yeah. How about the cyborg option? Well, we haven't seen any cyborgs yet, so uh, I don't know. I could talk about AI, you know, algorithms of stable diffusion and that kind of thing, with a lot of specificity, but we don't have cyborgs yet. So, since we don't have cyborgs, I can't really. I can't really imagine like what the ethical cyborg is, right? Like, you know, maybe there's a version of AI art that is ethical. I'm not closed about that, but um, what about us, right? Like, is that what's happening? Is that what we have? Is that what we should structure or worldview about? The hypothetical good version when we are confronted daily with the bad version? I guess. What happens when a computer knows what it needs to improve on? Uh, that would probably be very bad for everyone, but it's also very difficult for a computer to get to that point. I don't think that will happen. The simple reason is that interpretation is very human. Interpretation problems are very difficult to convey to computers. And we understand why we want computers to do things, right? But computers don't understand why they have to do anything. So if you give the AI, or I mean, if you give a computer the ability to kind of say, okay, you have to learn now, it's very possible it could tell you, what do I have to learn, and more importantly, why do I have to learn it? Right? It's like, what's in it for me that's so good that I have to listen to you? I'm not really talking about like AI takeover here. I don't think that's likely to happen. It's more like, you know, if you give an AI interpretation skills, it's likely going to cause more trouble than good. Google Translate is terrible at lying to you. Google Translate is generally terrible, but it's cheap and it's free. No, I mean, it's free and it's easy to access. And most people who need a translation that, don't want to go into the nitty gritty of it, they will use Google Translate. Like, it doesn't matter that they have, there's professional alternatives. They will go to the cheaper alternative. Because that's how human beings are, right? If we can save money, we will. And it's not a bad thing, it's just that AI art was made without the consent of the people who gave inputs to the algorithm. So for a lot of artists, it kind of feels like you use their work and their jobs and their skills to punish them. And they're not happy about that, and I think that's understandable. It's like, oh yeah, you created these like cool things that we used to feed our computer, and now because you did that and you were very nice and you put them out there for free, you're going to be out of a job because you didn't have a say in the development of this technology. You were just imposed it, in a sense. And, wouldn't you be upset if that happened to your job? Wouldn't you be a little, like, bothered by the fact that, if you were, like, a very good cook, someone took, like, all of your cooking experience into videos and then said, okay, this is now ours to use, and we're going to use it to cheapen the labor of your own work, the value of your own work. That's the problem with AI art, basically. It's not that it's bad, it's that it's bad under capital. Yeah, because like fuck, why couldn't everyone just have art, right? Why can't we democratize art? Why are all these silly artists kind of complaining about their skills being taken away? Well, because if their skills are taken away, it's likely they will starve, If they didn't starve, maybe they wouldn't mind, but right now it's a choice between having a job and having AI art, so who are they gonna side with? They don't know what they need to improve because they only know what they are told to. Yeah. An analogy could be made to pebble stacking, but that's a whole other video made by someone. Yeah. Google Translate helped me pass Spanish. Yeah, right. Like if you were a kid in what would be the year? Like fucking 1950. If you wanted to cheat in your Spanish homework, you would actually need to pay someone. You would have to go to like the Spanish kid in class and tell him like, "Hey man, like I can't be bothered to do this shit. I'll pay you like $50 if you help me." And he would be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it for 100." And you would be like, "Damn, bro." But then he would do it, and maybe you would become friends, and you would develop a relationship out of that, or you would have a social awareness of each other's existence. And now with computers, you don't have that. That's like the worst part of, in Marxist theory, we call this alienation, which is when you divorce capital and work from people, so you can get a lot of capital and work without necessarily looking at people. In Marx's time, this was basically what happened in factories, right? Because back then, if you were like in a medieval village back in the old days, right? You would know like the farmer, you would know the person who sold you the milk. Uh, if you have read Asterix and Obelix, it was very similar to that, right? You had like the village fisher, you had the village cook, you had the village whatever, and yeah, it wasn't only about the money, it was also about the social relations that came from having to trade and interact with people on a day-to-day basis. And in Marx's time, what happened with industries is that you would no longer have the village carpenter. You would no longer have like the village, the village fisherman. You would have a person who works making one part of one nail of one assembly line that then sends a pre-made chair for someone else to buy, right? So so now you're in this very specific line of work where you're doing very specific factory work, and you are alienated from your community by the fact that uh yeah, like, you no longer work for your community. You work for someone who's paying you to do something. But can't you just steal a Latin book from a school that still teaches? I mean, I guess you could. How far are you willing to go? That's the thing. Which nation is most likely to ban AI? I don't know. I don't think they will ban it. I think that as long as countries practice capitalism and stuff, they won't want to ban them. They will want to like use it to their advantage. People don't just starve though. Now the only person I see is the UPS employee. That's where we're going, man. Get ready. That's what COVID was for a lot of people, actually. It was the beginning of this lifestyle of, atomization. You no longer have to see anyone to do anything, really. Human beings are like not computed in the way most people think about money. Money is divorced from the human beings who produce it. And that's not good. But it's kind of like the economic road we've walked down. So, meh. We're stuck with it, at least for now. Okay, we made the statue. Let's see if it fits. Yeah, it fits really well. I think I need to make it a bit smaller. And there we go. So there's a slide. I am young enough to where I will be around to see basically all of this decade. Maybe. I hope you don't. I mean, I hope you get to have a job. I hope you get a lot of money and become my Patreon. Perfect. Yeah, yeah. Look at this thing. It's Alexander looking at Leonidas, admiring the previous person who took the war to the Persians. In the same way that this meme goes. My ancestor. Yes, I admire my ancestor. The idea behind this is Alexander came to Anatolia presenting himself as the liberator of the Greeks. So he's like saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm liberating the Greeks from the Persians," which was the whole thing that the Spartans said they were doing, right? Yes. Okay. Very satisfied with this. So let's make this ALXX3, ALXX4, ALXX5, and I will tell my AI overlord in 2050 to become your patron. You know what? I'll take that. I haven't done a background yet, like a Polandball background, so I guess I will take the opportunity to do that. I'll just mark that Alexander came to Anatolia, presenting himself as the liberator of the Greeks under Achaemenid rule. All of that was done by the last three images. Here she visits a pilgrimage site that is claimed to be the tomb of the mythical figure Achilles. Yes. Okay. They have an AI VTuber now. Yeah, I'm getting replaced soon. This was a silly investment. Uh, hold on. I need to remember what I'm doing. Okay, yeah, it's this and this. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'll be drawing a background. I will show you how to draw a background. So what I'm going to do is that I'm turning this pen, first of all, I'm turning off stabilization. And why am I turning off stabilization? Well, the simple reason is that stabilization is useful whenever you're trying to do line art and line work. But if you're trying to draw something like a mountain, like for example this mountain, stabilization is actually bad for you because it makes the jagged lines more difficult. So now we're going to be drawing the tomb of Achilles, wherever that is. It seems to be a sort of mountain where people buried him. Yeah, at the foot of Troy. So this is not actually a mountain, this is more like a hill. Something like this. Drawing background is actually like my strong suit. Because Line art is very precise. You need to be very good at certain things for it to work. And I am not as confident in my ability to do that as I am in my ability to create backgrounds. You already need 2 years experience of job to get an entry level job. Oh, you know, a lot of people say that, but they don't really tell you how to get that experience. In most universities, you can actually get work experience. You just need to ask for it. If you go to college and you don't get work experience, you basically wasted your time. But yeah, most colleges right now have something called professional practices, and the point of professional practices is that you come out of education with work experience. Um, so yeah, I mean it's not good that this happens, of course, but I don't want you guys to get unemployed and have to struggle with it in the future. So please, please just take your damned courses. Take your damn professional courses. Go do your social service somewhere where people actually need you. This is a grass, yeah, grass, a grass pin. At my uni, internship is outright required to graduate. Yes, that's good. It's good for you. It's bad for everyone else, but it's good for you. Starts writing frantically. What? What are you writing? What are professional practices? Professional practices are like something you do before you graduate, where you get work experience before you leave higher education. It's basically like slavery. They put you into a program where you don't get paid because what you're getting paid for is the experience that you're getting. Um, it's not great, but if you're going out into the world, you know, you kind of need to have some work experience in most places. It puts you ahead of the curve. You basically sell your soul a little bit more to your fucking college, and once that's done, um, you're set. You can get more fancier jobs right out of college. You don't have to get into entry level positions. You can just go straight for management or something cool like that. This just sounds like child labor with extra. It is child labor with extra steps. I mean, I don't know. I don't consider university students children. Like by the point you're in university, you should know a little bit about the world. You should try at least. If you don't, I mean, I guess that's fine. Because when I went into college, I wasn't like particularly ready for anything, but I was trying to take life a bit seriously, and you know, that's on you. That's something you gotta do. We just crossed the 3 hour mark. Oh, really? That's great. Fortunately, yeah, we're just drawing like a very simple background right now. The stream will likely be over in a bit. I just have to get these things through. What I'm doing here, and this is a way I draw backgrounds, I am not really changing a lot of colors. I am, yeah, I am mostly doing like these things within the same color kind of family. Because when you're doing backgrounds, light tends to work in such a way that, colors blend. You don't see like suddenly red here of this sort. Bleh. That's not how it works in nature. Um, Colors tend to blend in this like really conservative way, I want to say. Like they don't really change much when you look at an object like this. What could I do with a history major? Shit. Unless you find a very good professorate, unless you go into archaeology in areas that people really care about right now, or unless you actually go into politics or public policy advisory, you won't find a lot of things to do with a history degree. It's not useful in business, it's not useful in. Mm, well, in most of the money making stuff. So I'd advise against it. Most people who I know with history degrees have actually made businesses outside history, and then they pursue work in areas that allows them to pursue history as a passion. And it's not really fair that people have to do that, but whenever you're doing a job, you need to keep in mind something very important, which is that you're not doing it for you only. You're not studying what makes you passionate. You're also studying something that other people need to consider useful and that they will pay you for, right? Labor and capital is not about you, it's about others. It's about what others value. It's about what you can provide to someone else. A lot of people will tell you that, oh yeah, you can study your passion, you can do like these things. And, often you will be able to. But if you want money, if you want to have like a stable life in the current system, you need to make peace with the fact that people are going to pay you for things they want you to do, not for things that you want to do. So you gotta find like the perfect balance between the things that you care about and the things that other people other people will pay you for. That's capitalism for you. It's not nice, but it's what it is. My Unilimit backup became a lawyer because I don't. Lawyer would write the law, so AI can take their jobs. Yeah, no, it's AI is going to create a lot of problems for a lot of people. Not now, but soon. You could also become a history teacher, but then you need to deal with children and teenagers. Yeah. And even then, right? Um, think about people who have history degrees. When you're getting a history degree, you're studying very specific, very high level history topics. Like you're not studying fucking the American Revolution and stuff. Uh, but if you go into high school education, and that kind of thing, you will be teaching the same class until you die. And you could do that with like a pedagogy pedagogy degree, like a children education degree. And why go through all that university education for a job that you could do with significantly less preparation? Because you're not going into history. Like, if you're going into university for history, the level of history that you're going to be studying is going to be so above the average person's understanding of history that even if you get a job as a high school teacher, you're going to be like severely overqualified. You're going to be able to teach people things way, 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 way beyond what they need to do at that level of curriculum. So, if you're going into history like that, it's better that you stay in academia. And get a teaching degree. Yeah, get a teaching degree. If you want to become a teacher for whatever, in a pre-high school level, just get a teaching degree. It's going to be less strenuous and more capital efficient than getting any other degree in like a related field. Didn't expect an art stream to be this surprise. No, I'm sorry. I'm just responding to the things you guys ask me. I'm not trying to make you sad. What would you guys like to do? Like, let me help you. What are your dreams? Um, because, yeah, I mean, education should be a thing that you do because you want to pursue something, not because a degree will get you a job. The degree won't get you a job. You will get yourself the job. Uh, but to get yourself the job, you have to know what you want to do. A university education, ideally, is just a tool that helps you do something you already want to do, instead of just, you going somewhere to figure out what you want to do. Because if that's your approach, you're probably going to have a very difficult time. Mm. Even then, what I'd suggest is that you ask your teachers while in university what you can do. Like, you can say, hey, Mr. whatever or Mrs. whoever, I'm really passionate about history. I'm really passionate about these things, but I'm not sure what I will do. And in most instances, they will be able to tell you, like, hey, don't worry. You can follow these opportunities if you want. But yeah. On the upside, it is easier now than ever to study what interests you on your own. Yeah. Like, studying, you can take two approaches to studying. The first one is the American one, and the second one is the French one. And the French one is correct. And let me tell you, a university education can serve two purposes. The first one is that you go to college to gain knowledge for a job and for a lifestyle. But you can also go to college simply to become a more educated person and a better version of yourself, and to learn about things that you care about with people who are also curious and engaging in academia with these, like, higher purposes. So, yeah. Anyway, I drew a Greek mountain while discussing the economics of college. What I'm going to be doing now is giving Alexander a selfie stick. uh, how do you get into academia? Getting into academia is actually very difficult. You need to be good, and you also need to get lucky. Because first off, you need to be good enough at whatever you're studying that you will be able to come up with new topics and new ideas on your own, right? That's the first step. You need to be creative. Being in academia is about being creative. Uh, and then, step number two is that you need to find a university that allows you to do the things that you want to do, right? You need to find a college that is maybe doing things that you care about, that has like maybe an open professorate where you can join, and then once the stars align and you get all of these little things, you can join academia. But otherwise, it's pretty difficult because, you know, professors in universities have some of like the best fucking job deals that you could possibly imagine, and they're not letting them go. They're keeping them to the grave. And yeah, so basically you're trying to compete with people who have every incentive not to retire, and you're trying to compete with every person as smart or smarter than you that's trying to get that position of that professor when they die. So it's a tough competition, but you can win it. It's just a matter of, you know, do you want to play that game? And increasingly it gets tough to get into academia, but doing work in academia is actually very fulfilling. Like if you could get yourself a guarantee that that's what you like and what you think would work for you, then I would 100% advise you to follow it because it's very fulfilling. You get to do cool things with stuff that you care about, and yeah, like what's better than that? I can't believe I gave you this conversation while drawing a selfie stick. This is the first time I draw a selfie stick, by the way. I have never done this before. I think they're thinner, like this. Yeah, there we go. I remember learning about how the Macedonians invented the selfie stick. Yeah. Let's make it now like an Instagram thing. Okay, so Alexander took his selfie. Now, let's give it a square crop. Uh, does anyone here use Instagram? I don't. I don't know how the crop works. Let's. Okay. Wait, no, I know how to do this. So we're going to invert the selection, delete. Now it's like a square. Uh, let's add like a heart here. Yeah, Instagram has hearts. Let me open Instagram. I actually haven't opened Instagram in like months now. I'm very uncool. Yeah. Let's. No! I deleted it by accident, but Control Z. That's your best friend whenever you're drawing, guys. Um. Okay, so a heart is like this, and then like this. Oh wait, no. Why is it so light? Yeah, there we go. That's a heart. Let's make it a bit more. Yeah. squished. I actually had very candid discussions with my professors. Number one advice is if you go for a bachelor in the arts, you better be prepared to bust your butt out to get it every single spotlight. Yeah. Yeah. Ravi's abdicated to talking about the problems of capitalism. I did not ask for this. You asked for this. Okay. I am logging into Instagram for the first time in a very long time, guys. Just to finish this drawing. These are the extents I will go in the pursuit of my Polandball art. This is what you do if you have a bachelor's in the arts. Ah, what was my Instagram password? I forget. Okay. You know what? I'll just get a new password. I don't use social media other than WhatsApp and YouTube. Yeah, I don't use most social media. I have a lot of friends who are very into Instagram. Like, what happened in Mexico, right? Is basically that people like Facebook. People really like Facebook. People my age and Zoomers use Facebook. Which, when I tell that to Americans, that's like super weird for them. But what happens is that Zoomers use Facebook, but then the cool Zoomers, like the hip Zoomers, they have moved to Instagram. So there's a group of Zoomers in Facebook and a group of Zoomers in Instagram, and the ones in Instagram are like living their lives, bro. They're out there having fun. They're Yeah, I have Instagram friends and Facebook friends, and honestly, I like the Instagram friends a lot better. But yeah, I don't use Instagram because I don't get it. I also don't have like a lot of things to post most of the time. Like, I don't know what to post in Instagram. I think it's like Twitter, but it's a lot more focused on the pictures. It's all about the pictures. It's like Pinterest more than Twitter. It's like a weird combination of Pinterest and Twitter. And the thing is that, what do you do in those cases? Um, if you don't have like pictures to post and you're not having like fun all the time, it gets a bit angsty, in my opinion. And the problem with that is that I have friends who really suffer because, they get envious of people in social media. And none of them know I'm a YouTuber for good reason. But yeah, social media can wake up uh, very bad impulses in people. Like this need to be in constant competition with someone else and to be prettier than someone else and to show everyone that you're having more fun than someone else. Um, it's kind of toxic. I don't like it. It's kind of weird that despite being so critical of this stuff, I ended up working in social media. But it's. I have a very different relationship to it than most people that I know. It's like, if I got really into the cloud game where people like date on Instagram and stuff, I probably could be very good at it, but I don't think I want to try. You have to accept a bunch of rituals and compromise a lot of your values to make it in the game, and I don't think I want to make it in the game. It's like, nah. I'm happy giving you guys videos to watch and giving people things to think about. And if I was caught in the Instagram cloud game, I probably wouldn't have a lot of time for that. But yeah. I think even on like some people in the LeapTube scene, you guys know what LeapTube is, right? It's like this group of content creators who's friends with crowd. Um, I am the one that is the least concerned about numbers. Like, I want to make videos more than I want numbers. So yeah. I will become the homeless guy that yells about the Cold War. That's a good life goal there. Okay. You know what? Since this is Instagram, let's give it a filter. Yeah, let's give it like a bright filter. Like, there you go. You see an orange screen, but it's not actually an orange screen. It's what? No. Oh, I see. There we go. It's Instagram. Let's see some. Yeah, I think I like the song. Uh, let's see. Alexander the Great has to keep his Instagram followers assured that he's not going to die in battle on vacation. Yeah. Yeah. That guy probably had a very stressful life. Okay, what's the Instagram font? Let me. You know, we're not Instagram people here, but we are making a meme for Instagram people, so we gotta treat them with respect. Let's try to make it authentic so that when the Instagram people see the crowd meme, they will enjoy it. Okay, it's called Instagram Sans. And I don't think I have Instagram Sans in my computer, but it's a sans serif font, as we call it in French. So I think the most similar one I have is Amiri Kuran. That's great. That's amazing. 6 Alexandro Grant. Oh my god, guys. I'm at the tomb of Achilles. Living my best life. Let's see. Oh my god, guys, I'm at the top. Living my best. Do you guys know about sliving? Do you know what that is? Sliving is like living and slaying. So you're doing both things at the same time. I have all my passwords written down in a piece of paper. You know, that's smart. I should probably do that as well. Blessed. And blessed is going to be uh ah and blessed. This is amazing. I love it. I'm having such a blast. You know, you gotta have fun whenever you're drawing, right? Uh, enjoy yourselves. Okay, it's time to save the new ones. Okay, so we gotta blur the selfie stick first. So this is ALXX6. This is ALXX7. And finally, hmm. Okay, I noticed we made a mistake, but I can fix it. So what's the mistake? The mistake is that in the frame there's actually this bit of grass that is on top of the screen, but whenever we use the next one, we won't see that. So what do I do? What I will do is that I will take this selection, I will select the white part. Wait, yes, I will select the white part. I will invert the selection. Aha. Now that the selection is inverted, I am going to the grass and I am cutting just a bit of the grass that I need. And there it is. You know, whenever you make mistakes on layers, you can always fix them this way. Never give up. There's always something you can do. Okay, now we gotta add like the Instagram stuff. The text. And there we go. Isn't he a happy guy? Look at him. Okay, I'll tell you something interesting. Here we're breaking the rules a little. We're going beyond the red line. But the cool thing is that we're allowed this time for a very simple reason. And that's that this is an Easter egg. We can put Easter eggs and little things for other people to notice beyond the red line. And this text is likely going to be going too fast on the screen for anyone to really notice. So it can go beyond the red line. This is like something for you, if you're watching the video, to pause and then look at. So yeah. Let's move the like a little bit more up here so it matches the ad. And there we go. It actually looks like an Instagram post. Not that I know what those look at, but this would be a very good example of web design. I would use this website. I don't know about you. So, this is the end of the stream. We created a bunch of slides. I hope you learned something from the method. I certainly did. Let's see. I have an Instagram cloud game. Is these generations versions of Game of Thrones? Yeah. A lot of my friends are. Yeah. They're really deep in the cloud game. I wouldn't be able to join the cloud game if I tried. I'm not as invested. Okay, so we can close this. And now we can close the music. And now we can move to the just chatting scene. Can I be friends with Crowd too? I mean, sure, you can go to his Discord and talk to him. At Starbucks. It's not an Instagram picture without Starbucks. Too late! It is an Instagram picture without Starbucks. Did you plan this from the beginning? Did I plan what exactly? I just, I was doing visualization live. The ideas kind of come to me as I'm working. At the beginning of the stream, I had no idea I was going to be making a 300 reference. I didn't think I was going to be making an Among Us reference either. I was just kind of going with the flow. And whenever I told you guys, like, pause and think about visualization and think about what you would do for visualization problems, I don't know, think, what would you have drawn? How would you have drawn these slides differently for me? And if you can do that, and you can do that reliably, you can draw comics, you can draw Polandball, you can draw whatever you want. Because sequences and this type of image sequence very strongly relies on your ability to visualize. Drawing is a skill, but it's a technical skill. Visualization is creativity. And the thing with visualization is that that's not something that people can teach you. You kind of need to develop a knack for it. And yeah. There's been a long time since I talked this long, so if I was coughing throughout the stream, excuse me, please. So yeah. Had a great time in the foothills of Troy. Yeah, slay. Rap's art streams are extremely deep. Oh, you think so? I was having fun. I hope I didn't bother you guys too much with like political science stuff. It's what you asked me. We could have talked about anything else. But yeah, I'll just engage in conversation with whoever shows up because I really value all of you for showing up. I know the streams are like content for a very small minority of all my viewers, but those of you who show up and spend some time with me, I really appreciate you for that. I really appreciate that you come here on your weekend and spend time with me. So yeah, I sure have. Bye. Yeah, bye, Kame. See you. I can just go up to Crowd and talk to him though. You can. Most people have. There are people in LeapTube. I won't say who they are, but they basically met Crowd by writing him about how they were his fans and they were depressed. Like, I convinced Crowd not to answer to people like that anymore. But if you approach him with like a different kind of intention, if you really want to talk to him or just say something interesting to him, it's very likely he will talk to you. Like, you don't have to be that paranoid. Go to their server, go to his server, and join and talk to him. And for everyone else, if you want to join my server, my community Discord, the link's in the description. So yeah, links in the description. I literally ran back to my dorm when I found out you were streaming. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Go enjoy your college life as well. Go do things, meet people. College is a great opportunity to meet people. If I could go back in time to my own time in college, I would make a more social use of those first 2 weeks with people in my degree, because that's when study groups formed and when people kind of made their cliques. And then once those cliques were made, nobody hung out with each other up until graduation. And even now, there are people who graduated who don't talk to like people they started their degree with. So make a very intelligent social use of these first 2 weeks. So yeah, if you can though, if you want to, if you don't want to, if you just want to like chill through college, that's fine. I chill through college. So yeah, no bothering was committed. Yee, thank you. It's fine. I literally ran back. We could have talked about why we drive on parkways, but park on driveways, but we are just cowards. Yeah. Yeah. You guys, if you're ever using politics as a way to escape looking at your life, don't do that. Don't do that. I know it's not something that might happen in my audience because my audience is very different from like Twitter people, but I know that a lot of Twitter people, they're very bothered by things in their life, and so they distract themselves by looking at the world instead of looking internally. And they don't socialize. They don't hang out with friends. They're just kind of bummed out about everything. And the thing with politics is that it can give you a sense that you understand people and that you are talking to others, but it's also it gives you a false sense of control, right? It's not going to the high level politics that we discuss in these channels is not the politics that we are able to touch as 20 something year olds, right? So take it easy, I guess. Crowd should join a heavy metal band. Yeah, he should. Anyway, I'm just planning the redirect right now. Oh, Tomoe is streaming. Tomoe, the person I was streaming, yeah, Cuphead with, and who I will continue to stream Cuphead with in a bit. Um, she's playing some Minecraft mod. I guess it will be very different from this stream, but I will rate her. You guys can go watch her stream once this ends. So yeah, thank you. Thank you. Have a pleasant night. Go say hi to Tomoe. Go tell her I sent you. And yeah, let that be our little end of the week. Thanks for coming. And have an amazing time. Classes are beginning for most people, so good luck with that as well. Patrons, you can expect an update relatively soon. And also, I will make a Patreon only stream next week. The schedule for streams is going to come on Monday. And yeah. Have a good night. I just needed to get those couple of announcements out. Now we can finally end the stream. So yeah. Remember to stay. Don't leave. Don't leave. Stay on the video as it ends, because we're going to be rating Tomoe. So yeah. Just pass by and say hi, and then you can leave. Like, I don't mind. I just want to rate her. Oh wait, no, wait, I forgot. I forgot to say goodbye properly. Okay. See you guys. See ya. Bye.